Ash, and I love Minesweeper. I love Minesweeper a normal amount. I like Minesweeper, but not traditional Minesweeper. I like Minesweeper puzzles. And there's a lot of them out there, and I have many that I could recommend. But one that I'm going to be playing, I think, for the next 10 years of my life without interruption is 14 Minesweeper Variants. Now, there are more than 14 Minesweeper Variants and 14 Minesweeper Variants, but what's great about 14 Minesweeper Variants is that each variant, such as Vanilla, Multiple, Quad, Liar, Connected, Triplet, and more that you'll notice, haven't played, has all of these different stages. This is 5x5, 6x6, 7x7, and 8x8, each of which has 100 procedurally generated puzzles in it. Now you might be asking, procedurally generated puzzles, isn't that worse than just handmade puzzles? And often the answer is yes. Like, a lot of people have played Hex Cells and love Hex Cells. I think Hex Cells is alright, but I think Hex Cells Infinite, which has an engine which procedurally generates infinite puzzles, is not nearly as good as the rest of Hex Cells. And the reason for this is because things like Hex Cells, Hexseed, and Temetsi have these unique puzzles with unique shapes. 14 Minesweeper Variants keeps it strictly to a grid, which is, one might argue, less interesting, but the rules make solving these individual grid puzzles fascinating and completely procedurally possible to generate and to solve. So, as a part of my passion for this game and for Minesweeper puzzles in general, I think it would be fun to go through each of these variants and talk about how you solve them. There's a lot of procedures that you can use to solve these puzzles, but the great thing about these variants is that you come up with all of these different little rules as you go along. They look impossible at first. A lot of them have barely any clues, but you'll notice that even one clue can indicate a lot more than it appears due to the rules of the variant. But what we're going to start with is just vanilla. Nothing special, it's just the rules of Minesweeper. And I'm going to do a couple of 5x5 puzzles, and then we're going to extend those strategies to 6x6, 7x7, and 8x8. And by the end of this, you should broadly understand the techniques that you use in order to solve Minesweeper puzzles. You can apply those techniques to puzzles that you come across. It's likely that you won't be solving all 100 of these puzzles like I am, because I'm a freak, and you really only need to solve 10 of each variant in order to, complete the game and have a good time. So you probably won't come across the exact same puzzles that I'm solving, but nevertheless, you can use these techniques in order to recognize certain patterns and then act on them. And that process is a fascinating logical process, which I love, and watching this video will not make it any easier. But hopefully you'll learn something. So, as you can see, I've already solved all 100 of these puzzles, but let's start with... not restart. We'll do this one. So, starting off, we see that there are 3 clues in this puzzle. There's a 1 here, there's a 1 here, and there's a 5 here. Now, what I'm going to start with is noting that this 5 here has 5 slots beside it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in order for it to have 5 mines, I'm assuming you know how the basics of Minesweeper works. Every clue indicates how many mines there are surrounding it. All of these need to be mines. So we can go ahead and mark 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, one of the things you'll notice is that up here, I'm allowed to mark there, up here, there's a mine count. This is an important part of Minesweeper puzzles as opposed to normal Minesweeper. There are a lot of situations in which you're going to need to look at the mine count in order to determine what to do next. We're not quite at that point yet, but you'll see that there are 10 mines in this puzzle total, and it also shows you how many are remaining. One of the great things about 14MV is that if you mark an incorrect mine, you will be punished. So I know that all the marks I've made are correct, but you might be asking, can't you just guess the whole puzzle then? not easily. First of all, I'm obsessed with perfect clears, and I'm sure that you like logic as well, and so you don't really want to guess. But 14MV has an excellent expert mode, so the only correct, quote-unquote, solutions are ones which you can logically get to. If I was to try and mark any of these squares over here, it would probably kick me out of the puzzle and tell me that I got something wrong. If I marked this as clear or as a mine, it would probably tell me that I'm wrong. That's because I can't logically determine anything about this square yet, and so anything that I mark is necessarily a guess, and that's not correct. So we're going to focus on the things that are real, like these two clues, which are all we have left to solve. Now, this clue is 1, so there must be a mine here or here, but not both and not neither. So within these 2 tiles, there is 1 mine. And this clue is another 1. And so within these 4 tiles, there must be 1 mine. Now, have you figured out what the solution to this set of clues is? Well, it's that if there must be 1 mine in all of these 4 tiles, but there also must be only 1 mine in these 2 tiles, we know that the 1 mine that's contained in this purple category is going to be over here. There can't be a mine here, because there has to be a mine here, and that would make it so that there are 2 mines next to this 1, making the puzzle invalid. So we can go ahead and mark off this and this. Now we have more information. We have here a 2 and a 3. We know that there is 1 mine here, but that doesn't help us a lot with this, because it only encompasses this 1 square from these 2, and whether or not that is a mine or not is a binary choice, which we could work out. We could decide to go, well, what if there's a mine here? What does that make happen in the puzzle? What it makes happen is that there's a mine here, but none here, here, or here, or here. And what if there wasn't a mine here? Well, in that case, the mine must be here, which means that there's no mine here or here, and there is a mine here. Now, these spots where we have a dot and a cross means that it could be either of the 2 solutions, but you'll notice we have 2 squares here with 2 crosses through them. There's another way that we can come to this conclusion other than just working it out from 1 binary square. You could look at this 2 and say, well, it's got 1 mine next to it already, so there's 1 more mine between these 2 squares. 1. And, well, the 3 has 2 mines next to it already, so there's 1 mine between these 4 squares. Look familiar? That's because it's the same thing that we did up here. We know that the 1 mine is within these yellow squares, not within the purple squares. So you can use binary reasoning and working things out based on what would happen if you did certain outcomes, or you can start recognizing these certain patterns in order to complete logical tasks without having to complete full logical explanations. Now we have a 5 and a 2. This, again, won't help us very much with solving these 2 categories that we've already discussed, because these categories only encompass a small part of the new categories we see here. But we can look at this 5 and this 2 and discover something new from it. The 5 has 3 mines next to it already, so there must be 2 mines in these 3 tiles. And, if you can figure out what I'm about to do, this is a 2. All of the mines, all the tiles next to it, must contain 2 mines. But this category completely encompasses the category from the 5. 2 of those mines must be here. That's all of the mines. So we know there's no mines here, here, or here. Now, there is a, as we would call it in Sudoku, there is a naked solution here. There is only one thing which this tile can be, because there is a 1 next to it, and it is the only remaining tile that there is, and this 1 doesn't have any other mines next to it. So, that's a mine. Great job. Now this 3, it has 3 mines next to it and an empty square. That square can't be a mine. Also true of the 2. Mark it off. Now, some of these are question marks. Those question marks aren't clues. They don't give you anything. And there's a square here which isn't next to any clues. How will we solve it? Well, coming back to our mine count that I noticed earlier, once we reach the end of this puzzle, we either will have remaining mines or we won't. Depending on whether there are remaining mines, we can determine whether or not this is a mine or an empty space. If we end up with remaining 0, then we can mark off all of the squares that don't have mines in them. If we end up with more remaining, then we place mines in the squares that don't have mines in them. Going back to our puzzle, this is a 1 with 1 mine next to it. Click. This is a 2 with 1 mine next to it and 1 empty square. Click. This is a 2 with 2 empty squares next to it. Click and click. This is a 3 with 3 mines next to it and an empty square. Click. This is a 4 with 3 mines and an empty square. Click. And now we can see that our mine count has reduced to 0. So, given that, we're going to click as this and an empty square, click this to be an empty square, and we have received our perfect clear. Let's do another level. Using some of the techniques, but explaining them a little bit less. Let's look at, we have a 3, but there's no other clues around us to help it, no other clues around it to help us determine whether any of these tiles are mines. Same for this 2, which only shares this 1 tile with the 3 here, which won't be extremely helpful to us. But what about this 3 and this 3? They are next to each other, so they're pretty likely to have something to do with the solution. This 3, well, let's just keep it simple. It has 3 empty squares next to it. Those 3 empty squares have to be filled with mines. And now this 3, which you'll notice its category completely encompasses this one. So regardless of whether there were 3 empty spaces or 4 here, we would want to get rid of these 3 tiles. But now it has 3 mines next to it, so it's even easier to figure that out. Sometimes there are multiple paths to a solution. This is useful if you are not a logical expert, but as you get further into 14 Minesweeper Variants, you'll notice that this becomes less and less common. You're going to start needing to identify the single path to the solution more often than not. Now, let's look at these that are next to each other. There has to be, and for this 2, there's 1 mine next to it already, so these 3 empty squares need to contain 1 mine. But these 3 empty squares aren't fully encompassed by any clue like we saw before. So what can be gleaned from this? Well, let's look at this 3 to the right. This 3 to the right has 4 empty spaces around it. 3 of those need to be mines. Let's draw that there. And write a 3. Well, the thing is, these 2 overlap. This yellow area can only have 1 mine in it. And so there can only be 1 mine among these 2 squares. That means that effectively this 3 doesn't have 4 possible mine spots beside it. It still has 1 possible mine spot, or rather 2, where 1 mine could be. But in order to have 3 mines, if there can't be 2 here, there has to be 2 here. And now, well, let me undo that. This 1, which we saw before, does fully encompass another clue area. This 3 now has 2 mines beside it and 2 empty spaces, which must contain 1 mine. So, this empty yellow space, which doesn't encompass the purple area, can't have a mine in it, like we were talking about before. And that has added some mines and removed 1 mine with a single interaction between 2 clues. Now, like I was talking about with this 3 and this 3, this 3's area is fully encompassed by this one. We already know all 3 mines will be within this, even if we can't see where exactly they will be, so we can go ahead and get rid of this marker. This is a 2, there's 1 mine there. Now, let's look at this. there's one mine within these 2 squares. That area is fully encompassed by the 3. Looking at clues on the edges of the puzzle is a great way to start, because these edge of the puzzle places are often fully encompassed by other areas. A clue right here would be fully encompassed by a clue here, or a clue here. And a clue on the edge will be fully encompassed by any that are one space out from it. So this 3 and this 2, this 3 which fully encompasses this 2, only has one mine beside it. So there needs to be 2 mines within these. Let me erase this one, it's extraneous. There needs to be 2 mines within these 3 spaces. Now, like we were talking about before, one of those mines is going to be here, necessarily. But there can only be one mine here, because this is the yellow area. And if there's only one mine here, the other mine, in order to complete the 2, has to be here. Let's start doing some simple things. This has 2 mines. You can click on the clue in order to get rid of any extra tiles. Here is one that's in the exact same configuration as this 2 and 3. It's this 2 and 3. This 2 is fully encompassed by this 3. This 2 has 1 mine next to it. This 3 has 2 mines next to it. Unlike this situation where the 2 had 1 mine and the 3 had 1 mine, so an extra mine needed to be placed outside of the area, this 3 already has an extra mine placed outside of the 2's area, so we can eliminate this tile. This only has 3 spaces, click. This has all 3 mines, click. This only has 3 spaces, this only has 2 spaces, this has all 3 mines, and then our remaining mine total is 1, so we can go ahead and eliminate this one. Let's keep going a little bit faster. Oh, this one only has 2 clues to start with. Well, if you've been paying attention, you can guess what I'm about to do. It's eliminate this, this, and this. Because this 2 is fully encompassed by this 2, the 2 mines must be within this area. The same thing happens with these 3s. Must be fully encompassed here, and in fact, we can already reveal all of them, so we get rid of that. Now, here's a slightly more complicated, or at the very least, less intuitive version of a technique that I showed you just a moment ago. Again, here's a 2 where only 1 mine is contained within these 3 squares. Now, this is the same thing that I did earlier, but it's with a 5, and so you're going to have to fill in a lot more room than you did before, which is a little bit scary, but the principle is still the same. Now, the 5th mine has to be within here, and so the 2nd mine has to be within here. We can remove this tile. This 2 is fully encompassed by this 2, ... There must be 1 mine here, and so using this clue, which we already worked on earlier, we might keep that marking around if we sketched it before, even though I'm removing them for clarity, and then immediately notice, oh, if there must be 1 here, then there can't be 1 here for this 1. And furthermore, if there must be 1 here, and there already is 1 here, there can't be 1 here for this 2. And now we have a 1 in the corner with a mine already next to it, 2 spaces. Now, what do we do with this 3? This 3 is a great example of a time when you might want to use your binary reasoning, because we can't figure out from the clues that we have which of these is a mine and which of these is a mine. There's 2 spots where mines can go and 1 extra square here. But these 2 spots overlap. So the possibilities for this are either that there is a mine here, which prevents there from being mines here and here, or there is a mine here and here, which prevents there from being a mine here. You can see how this happens when these 2 overlap, because this works with this clue. then this will have 2 mines next to it, and you remove that. But it also is in the area of this clue. This will have 2 mines next to it, and you remove that. The opposite obviously happens if you do the opposite, but these don't result in the same number of mines because they have this overlapping area. But looking at our mine count up there, we can see that there must be 3 mines left in this puzzle. Now, which of these solutions allows there to be 3 more mines? Well, it's the white solution, because we have 1 here, 2 here, and then we're going to have 3 in this empty spot. In the red solution, there would only be 1 and 2. That's not enough mines to complete the puzzle correctly, so we know that we want to do the solutions that are farther apart from each other. This is an easy shorthand if you don't want to do the full binary workout for these. Sometimes this is done with more than 3 mines, but generally speaking, the solution which is on the edges is more mines than the solution that is in the middle. And now we can get rid of this spot. Let's do 2 more. Here's a great situation that you'll find in, I find, a lot of puzzles. Here's a 2. Now this is why I find that a 2 and a 5 is a slightly scary combination. This you don't notice at first when you're starting to solve these puzzles. There needs to be 2 mines in this area. In the 5, which has the same shape of area, there needs to be 5 mines in this area. Again, we look at the places where these 2 overlap, and we find that there's an area here where there must be only 2 mines. If there's 2 here, there's only 1, 2, 3 more spots available, which adds up to 5. So there must be mines here, here, and here. And we can also, like we did before, determine that because both of the mines have to be within this area to complete the 5, there cannot be mines here, here, or here. It's a very useful pattern, this 5 and 2, because it gives you a lot of information. But it can be a little bit difficult to recognize at first, so always be looking for this 5 and 2 next to each other so that you can determine all of these 6 squares all at once. Now, we can't do anything more with this 2, but we can see, of course, that it reveals a 1, which is fully encompassed by this 1, and this 1, which we have just revealed, is fully encompassed by this 1. Now this 2 only has 2 spaces next to it. Now we see that this 3 has only 1 mine left within this area, and this 5 has 3 mines left within this area. 3 and 1. You see where this is going? There must be only 1 here. There are only 2 spaces left. 1, 2, 3, none there. This mine already has a 1 next to it, or rather this clue already has a mine next to it. There's only 1 space for this. There's already a mine. There's only 2 spaces. And once again, we are faced with this mine count puzzle, where we wouldn't be able to determine, just based on the clues available, whether there should be mines in each of these overlapping categories. But, like I said before, the solution on the edges is going to give you 2 mines. The solution in the middle is going to give you 1 mine. Because we can see that our mine count remaining is 1, we're going to click this one, and then get rid of this and this. This will be our last level from the 5x5s, and then we'll do some quick samples of the bigger boards, which are a little bit more challenging, but use exactly the same principles. Here's a 1 with only 1 slot next to it, keeping it simple at first. Here's a 2, which is fully enveloped by this 4. There can only be 1 mine in this area, and there must be 3 mines in this area. That 1 fully enveloped by the 3, there must be 1 there, and we have remaining 2 mines that must be placed here. We can't eliminate anything, however, because there's no extraneous space in this category. It's fully encompassed by the other category. Let's look at what else we have. We know that there must be one mine here. We know that there must be two mines in this area, but they only overlap in this one spot, so we know that this specific interaction isn't that helpful. However, it also interacts with this other mine. If there can only be at most two mines in this area, and this 3 needs 3 mines in this area, then we can do the same thing we did with the 4 and 2 and put the extra mine here. And of course, now we can use extraneous space because there must be 2 mines in this area to complete the 3, so there's no mine here. Fill in the last of the 4. This 3 is fully encompassed by this 3. This 1 only has 1 space. This 3 already has 3 mines. This 1 is fully encompassed by this 2, and the additional mine for this 2 has already been placed, so we don't need 1 here. This 5 only has 5 spaces. This 3 only has 3 spaces. The 2 is finished, and we have no mines remaining. This gets pretty simple once you start recognizing patterns like this and working with the logic in the particular way that the game wants you to. Let's do some larger puzzles, just one of each to show you how it goes. Let's do this one. Here's an example of a 0 clue. 0 clues are very useful because it tells you straight up that there are no mines in any of these spaces. You're usually going to reveal a lot of question marks from these, but sometimes they give you some freebies, like this 3. And now this 1 is free, this 4 is free, rather, not 3. This 1 is free, and now this 2 is fully encompassed by the 3, which already has its extra mine. We can get rid of these 2. There is 1 more mine remaining here, just 1, whereas this 4, which fully encompasses that area, needs 4 mines. This is a great example of, you may have seen it already, but I don't recall, the fact that a partially complete clue can have the remaining area in which it accepts mines be fully encompassed by another clue, even if the entire clue isn't fully encompassed, as in the case of this 2 and this 3. Here we can see that the remaining area of this 3 only accepts 1 mine. Even though these 2 mines aren't a part of the 4, that helps in fact, because the 4 still needs all 4 mines and can place its mines here, here, and here. This adds that this 1, fully encompassed by this 2, which already has its extra mine. Get rid of that one. Now we can see that this 3 only has 1 mine remaining here. And this 3 only has 1 mine remaining here. This encompasses this other 1, and so we know that the 1 can't be here. Now this 2 is free. Using what we just did, we can see that this 1 allows us to solve this 3. And then this 1 helps us again, because we can see that this 4 needs 3 more mines, and only one of them can be in that yellow spot, so we need to put 2 here. The 2 is now, let me clear off my space, free, the 4 is free, this 3 is free, this 3 is free, this 4 is free, and we have no more mines left. Let's do a 7 by 7. This, switching around. Okay, now let's work with this one. Where do I start with this one? It's an interesting question. A 7 by 7 puzzle and an 8 by 8 puzzle are so much larger, and they contain a lot of clues to begin with that sometimes it's hard to tell what to do. But I see what we have to do here. This one only allows 1 mine in this entire area. This one does the same thing. It only allows 1 mine in this entire area. This interacts significantly with the 4. The 4 needs 4 mines in its area. But it overlaps 2 spaces which only accept 1 mine and only has 2 spaces remaining. What's great about these larger puzzles is often you'll find these multi-clue interactions that are hard to get in smaller puzzles because you just don't have the space. And so now 3 clues are interacting to give you the solution that you need, rather than just 2. We can safely place a mine here, and we can eliminate the extraneous space from these ones. That's revealed a lot of new information. For example, this one now has this one next to it, and we can remove these 2. This one only allows a 1 in these 2 spaces, and this 3 needs 1 more, so we can remove its extraneous space. This 4 is free, this 3 is free, the 1 is free, the 2 is free, the 4 is free, the 2 is free, the 2 is free. If I'm going a little bit fast, you can understand why. There's not a lot to explain when there's just the amount of tiles remaining next to the thing that you need. But you'll learn to recognize these faster as you solve more puzzles. Don't worry if you can't recognize them as fast as someone who's done about 2,000 of them can. This 2, of course, only accepts 2. And this 4 needs 3 more. There can only be 2 in this area, so we know there must be the 3rd one here, and we can remove the extraneous space. Now we can say that there can be only 2 here, just to notate everything. And there can only be 1 here. There can only be 1 here. Here's an example of a couple of clues interacting. There can only be 1 in this area, and there can only be 2 in, you see what I'm drawing, this area. Now, what does that interact with? Well, they both interact with this 4, and the 4 needs 4, of course, to be in this area. If these 3 spaces can only hold 2 mines, and this space can only hold 1 mine, that only adds up to 3, and there's only 1 extra space. So we have to put a mine there. And then we can remove the extraneous space from both of these categories. Like I said, it sometimes just takes notating everything on the screen, and then you'll recognize these interactions for what they are. I usually don't notate with these big blocks. I tend to notate in a slightly simpler way using these dots and crosses that I mentioned earlier, and just rely on my own sight for these blocks. But it might help you to draw the blocks yourself everywhere on the screen and look for where they interact. The 1 is free. The 2 is free, the 2 is free, the 3 is free, the 4 is free, and we have 5 mines remaining and 5 empty spaces. So we'll mark 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now our final puzzle will be an 8 by 8. You can see how these get harder as they go along. I'm quite fond of them. This one has a 0 right in the middle here, which is quite helpful, but you'll see just how much it gives us. Now, here we have a 6, which is free. That helps. And then we have, let's see. Well, none of these areas fully encompass one another, so in order to see the interactions that we need, let's draw out everything, like I suggested earlier. Here's a category with 1. Give me the color I want. Here's a category with 2. Here's another category with 2. Here's another category with 2. Here's a category with 1. Excuse my reusing colors. And And here's another category with 1. We'll also go ahead and place a category for this 4. And a category for the 3 remaining from this 5. This one doesn't connect to any other mines or any other clues at the moment, so we'll disregard it for now. But do any of these look like they contradict each other or overlap? Not currently, but let's think about it a little bit closer. Let's look at particularly this 2 and this 2. There must be 2 mines in this light blue area, and there must be 2 mines in this red area. Well, there can't be 2 mines outside of the light blue area entirely, because that only leaves 1 space in the light blue area for a mine to be placed. So, at least 1 of the mines from this light blue 2 has to overlap with the mines from this red 2. So, there can either be, let's use some of our binary logic here, 2 mines here, which causes these implications, or 1 mine here, 1 mine here, and 1 mine here. How does this affect our logic, and how does this affect our solving? Well, let's go back a little bit. What about this 2 and this 2? They're in the same situation, where there has to be a mine somewhere in here. But there can't be 2 mines in here, because otherwise that would cause there to be only 1 mine in the light blue area. So, let's consider that there must be 1 mine among these 2. And there might be 2. But what if there were 2 mines in that area? Well, 1, 2, remove the rest of these. Has to be a mine there. No mine there. Mines there. And no mines there. But also, this causes a contradiction. There has to be 5 mines next to this 5, and this would cause there only to be 4. So, we know that only 1 mine, not 2, can go in this area of 2 squares. That means that the other mine for this 2 needs to go there. And that even this doesn't prevent the contradiction I was talking about. Because if there was 1 mine here and 1 mine here, you would still be left with crosses in those 2 and only 4 mines next to the 5. So we know that because there's 1 mine here, there can't be 1 mine here. The mine has to be here, but there can only be 1 of them. Another area of 1. Next to this 5, we see that there's only 1 mine here, and there are 3 mines remaining, so we can go ahead and mark these 2. Now we have a slightly easier time. This 1 is fully enveloped by this 2, so we can remove the extraneous space because it already has its extra mine. There can only be 1 mine in this area. You know where else there can only be 1 mine? In this area. So these 2 are extraneous. There can only be 1 mine in this area. And there must be 4 mines next to this 4. So 1, 2, 3, and remove the extraneous space. The 1 is fully enveloped by the 2, which already has its extra mine. This 4 is free, the 3 is free, the 3 is free, the 4 is free. The 5 is free, the 3 is free. The 1 is free. Now we see that there must be one mine here, one mine here, stops changing colors, one mine here, but there can only be one and one in this area of 3. 1, 1, 3, and remove the extraneous space. The 0 is free, the 4 is free, the 2 is free, the 3 is free, the 1 is free, the 2 is free, the 2 is free, the 4 is free, the 3 is free, the 4 is free, the 5 is free, the 2 is free, and we are out of mines. Now, the solving process obviously gets more complicated and less like traditional Minesweeper once you get to the categories like quad, multiple, etc. But those are for different videos. So, I hope you understand a little bit more about the process of solving Minesweeper puzzles. You can apply these strategies to lots of different Minesweeper puzzle games. Although they won't work the same as the grid format, you might apply them to your basic hex-based Minesweeper puzzle games like Hexseed and Hexcells, or even to the grid-based puzzles in Temesti, though be careful because sometimes those grid-based puzzles don't include the corners in their clues. So keep an eye out for the icon in the top right corner. I hope that this has been informational for you. I love logic, I love Minesweeper, and I love this game.